Yeah, I figured it'd be nice and nicely in keeping with one of the major and most unfortunate themes of the year if the final daily cancellation of the year was dedicated to the groomers. In fact, because I'm a fair person, today we're going to give the groomers a hearing. We are going to let them defend themselves. We are going to listen to whatever arguments they might be able to put forward in their own defense. I have long believed that it's not possible for us to make a more compelling case against leftism than the leftist makes himself against himself if you simply let him speak. That was the idea behind my film, What is a Woman? And today we will apply it to this. Specifically to the suddenly quite common phenomenon of the all-ages drag show. Last week we told you about the all-ages drag show in Texas, covered by a journalist named Taylor Hanson. It was a Christmas-themed show, which is currently touring the country, and which includes graphic talk about sex, graphic performances of simulated sex, half-naked and nearly fully naked men parading in front of the crowd, cross-dressing men with fake breasts, etc. It is graphic, it's sexual, it's obscene, and it's advertises to all ages. How can it possibly be defended? Well, it can't, obviously, but the left is giving it their best try, as typified by this Twitter thread from a so-called investigative journalist named Stephen Monicelli. It's very important to Stephen, apparently, that he defend the honor of half-naked cross-dressers who perform simulated sex acts in front of elementary schoolers. Very important to him. He's very passionate about allowing these sorts of displays. And he posted a lengthy Twitter thread with that goal in mind. Let's read through it. He says, quote, "Right-wing activists working with the Blaze TV and Texas Family Project must have realized that protests outside of drag shows, which often feature sexual language and are always outnumbered but don't look great, don't look great. So they've taken the tactic of filming drag shows for selective outrage. Hanson and Sarah Gonzalez from the Blaze are happy to play fast and loose with the facts. Hanson claims the drag show that is touring Texas right now is family-friendly. Their advertising doesn't say that. What it says is all ages welcome. This is not unlike an R-rated movie. Here's another piece of info about the show that's touring Texas right now, spotted by Parker Malloy. It explicitly says it contains adult content." Ah, okay. See, he got us. He got us. These aren't family-friendly drag shows. They're all-ages drag shows. Ha! See? That changes everything. What exactly does it change? Well, it's not really clear. In fact, Stephen, in an attempt to defend the sexual performances for children, has only somehow succeeded in making them seem even worse than we originally suspected. He thinks that it gets the drag show off the hook to point out how it advertises the fact that it has adult content. But because he's a creepy degenerate himself, he doesn't see the problem with putting the phrases adult content and all ages welcome on the same poster. The fact that they acknowledge up front that the event is sexual in nature and yet still make sure to note how all ages are welcome only makes the pedophilic grooming nature of the whole affair all the more explicitly and horrifically clear. Because keep in mind something. The defense up until now has been that drag shows aren't adult-oriented. That's what they've been saying. Now they admit that they are adult-oriented, but that's okay because it says adult-oriented and all ages on the poster? What? So once again, we go from that isn't happening to it is happening and it's good. This is always the process. This is always the trajectory every single time. Stephen compares this to an R-rated movie, once again, defending it in terms that only prove the opposite of the point that he's hoping to make. Also, although you technically can bring a child to an R-rated movie, nowhere on any R-rated movie's poster or in its promotional material will you ever see the words, all ages welcome. Okay? If the movie Eyes Wide Shut came out in theaters tomorrow, and in all the previews it said, all ages welcome, we would agree that it's a major problem and extremely creepy at a minimum. Or maybe at this point we wouldn't agree. I don't know. After all, the other side of this debate has now reached the point of outright defending sexual performances for children. But what about parents? Yes, the drag performers themselves deserve all the scorn and contempt that we can heap on them, but the parents who actually bring their children to these events deserve even more of it. How do they defend it? How can they, what can they say for themselves? Well, fortunately, the aforementioned Sarah Gonzalez, who has been doing a lot of great work and important work on this issue, was on the scene for this one drag show in Texas, and she asked the parents themselves why they're bringing their kids. And here's what they said.
Can I ask you a question? Do you find this to to be age appropriate for your children?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little more, I'm not as conservative, but I mean, really, it's not any different than, I mean, Disney, they have similar things. Like, it's really not that far from it.
I had sex with my father's boss in my father's office.
Really? Honestly, like, I'm body positive.
Minty fresh.
Do you find this to be age appropriate for children?
Do I find this to be age appropriate?
Yeah.
For my child, yeah.
Hello, you're reaching for my are you hungry?
Do you mind me asking how old she is?
She's 12.
12.
She knows about sex, and I mean, she doesn't see sex.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she kind of sees simulated sex in the show.
She goes to school. She sees simulated sex all the time.
You know what I'm saying?
It's exposing sex to them too young.
Honestly, because there's like, this is a little bit more forward, but there's innuendo and all that kind of stuff in Disney. I mean, Shrek, I mean, they're talking about, are you compensating for something? There's a lot of things that they don't necessarily get. I mean, it is sexualized, but like, it is what it is. I just think it's the stigma around it that's, you know, which they don't care. I've raised them not to care.
The stigma around what?
Around, you know, different sexualities. You know, it's just, that's not any different than, you know, straight people.
Another big riot.
So you don't worry that this is like ruining her innocence or anything?
No. She needs to know what's appropriate and know when to say no consent and what's appropriate and what's not, and how will she know that if she doesn't see it in a safe way?
So her argument is that kids are going to eventually be exposed to cross-dressing fetishists who simulate sodomy on each other anyway, so it's best to introduce them to it in a safe environment. In other words, according to her, kids are going to be sexually harassed and sexually groomed, so you might as well facilitate their abuse yourself. If you were wondering what these parents could possibly say for themselves, what defense they could possibly offer, how they could ever manage to justify their parenting choices, well, now you know. They can't defend it. They can't justify it. The job of a parent, of course, is to fight tooth and nail to preserve your child's innocence, protect their heart, protect their soul, protect their minds. Not feed them to the lions intentionally because you figure that they're going to be consumed eventually anyway. But these are parents who don't care about protecting their children, obviously. To them, the most important thing is to signal their leftist enlightenment to the world. And what better way to do that than to offer up your own to the LGBT groomers, putting their innocence on the altar as a sacrifice. This is what they're really doing. Only they won't say it out loud. That is why these parents and everyone else involved ultimately claim the honor of being the last people of 2022 to be canceled. And that'll do it for this portion of the show as we move over to the members block. Hope to see you there. If not, talk to you next year. Godspeed.